Some people run from the law. Others run from their past. But the forest? It doesn't care why you came. It only cares what you've buried. They say the forest is quiet. But he knew better. After everything fell apart. After the failed business drained his savings. After the silence at home turned from cold to cruel. After the day he forgot his daughter's birthday and she stopped calling. He packed his things, drove north without a plan. And vanished into the trees. He wasn't looking for peace. He was just looking for somewhere the world wouldn't follow. He found an old cabin, half swallowed by moss and time. No phone signal. No electricity. Only the rustle of branches and the sigh of the wind through the pines. That first night, he thought he'd found silence. But silence can lie. The second night, it spoke. At first, it was faint. A whisper woven through the wind. He chalked it up to exhaustion. But then the whispers grew clearer. Words from old conversations. Moments long buried. By the third night, the forest had a memory. It spoke in familiar voices. His mother's gentle scolding. His ex-wife's quiet weeping in the next room. His daughter's voice, small and full of hope. "Will you come this time, Daddy?" He froze. Then he laughed, bitterly. Ghosts, he thought. Just tricks of the mind. But the laughter didn't echo. Because the forest wasn't haunted. He was. Each day, he tried to lose himself in routine. Chop wood. Boil water. Patch the roof. But the forest had no clock. No distractions. And by sundown, it would speak again. Not in anger. Not in punishment. But in perfect, painful memory. It remembered the sharpness in his tone. The moments he chose silence over apology. The promises made, and broken, with a shrug. He tried to escape. Hiked for hours, deeper into the trees. But the deeper he went, the louder the forest became. He began to understand. This wasn't nature punishing him. It was offering him a mirror. And for the first time in his life, he was forced to look. He tried to drown it out with whiskey. He burned old photos in the fireplace, but even the flames whispered her name. Eventually, he stopped fighting. He sat in the clearing. Closed his eyes. And listened. He listened to every word he wished he hadn't said. Every word he never had the courage to speak. And when the wind died down, he whispered something back. "I'm sorry. I didn't know what I was doing. I miss her." The forest didn't answer. It didn't need to. The next morning, something had changed. The air was still heavy, but no longer suffocating. The trees still stood, but they no longer loomed. And then, he saw him. An old man, sitting at the edge of the clearing. Silent. Watching. As if he had been there the whole time. They exchanged no greetings. Only stillness. As the stranger rose to leave. He turned and said, "The forest never judges. It only reminds." Then he vanished into the trees. And for the first time in weeks, the man felt something unfamiliar. Not joy. Not relief. But the gentle weight of being understood. The forest had not come to punish him. It had come to teach him. You can flee from people. You can lie to the world. But the truth always finds a voice. And sometimes, that voice sounds just like the wind. Now, when he walks through the trees, he listens differently. Not with fear, but reverence. Not to silence, but to everything he used to ignore. And when he finally returns to the world, he'll bring the forest with him. If this story whispered to something you've been running from, subscribe. And return here when you're ready to listen again.